Okay, I believe we are recording now. So welcome to this version of the Helpful Hour where we're going to go over banquet planning. I'm going to throw it over to Cory just so he can go ahead and get us started. Cory, do you want to kick us off with some introductions?
Yeah, I can. So hello, I'm Cory Miller. I'm from the Denison FFA chapter. I'm currently a sophomore in college studying engineering at BMAC. And my favorite FFA memory would probably be at Banquet my junior year. During opening ceremonies, I completely forgot my part for 5 seconds or 5 to 10 seconds. It was an awkward silence. And it was something that I will never forget because I was going in to be the president at the end of the banquet. It's something funny to look back on now, but it was definitely embarrassing when it first happened. Haley, do you want to kick off with yours?
Yeah, I will. Thank you, Cory. My name is Haley Williams, and I'm serving as the Northwest State Vice President. And this year, I am a freshman at Dordt University, and I'm majoring in ag education. I'm originally from the Lawton Bronson FFA chapter, so down by Sioux City. I would say my favorite FFA memory was always traveling, whether it was going to national convention or state convention. It was always fun spending time in the vehicles with my advisor and other different chapter members that I was with. So that was probably some of my favorite memories. Mickayla, would you like to introduce yourself now?
Yes. So hi guys, my name is Mickayla McGill. I'm currently serving as the Iowa FFA state president. I'm currently attending Iowa State, where I'm majoring in ag communications and minoring in criminal justice. My favorite FFA memory is probably going to national convention. We have a community member named Dan Dennison who's very, very involved with our chapter, and he's one of the greatest guys alive. And he drove with us one year, and it was a great experience, and he made the whole time fun. So now that you've had a chance to kind of hear who we are, we want to give you guys the opportunity to do an introduction. So Emma, if you would like to start us off.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Cory. Hi, I'm Emma Rice. I am from Denison FFA chapter, just as Cory was. I am currently a junior in high school, and I serve as the co-reporter for our FFA chapter.
Morgan, would you like to introduce yourself? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. I'm Morgan Mckay from the Knoxville FFA chapter, just like Mickayla. I am a sophomore, and my favorite FFA memory so far has been introducing Mickayla last year at the South Central Districts for the final time as she was the state VP.
Well, it sounds like we've got quite the chapter reunion going here. So this is exciting. So with that, we're going to dive into some things to get us prepared for banquet planning. Cory, do you want to run us through the overview of what we're going to be covering?
Yeah, so we're going to talk about kind of what we're going to do for the next hour or so. It's just going to be just a syllabus, really, to go over the main points, and then we'll get further into these points as we go deeper. For the first one, we'll do basic banquet goals, kind of what the plan for banquet, how that's supposed to look, and the reason why we should be doing banquets and putting our time and effort in this so carefully. The next part is themes. Themes such like FFA has in past years, chapters across the state all have their own theme that they like to do, and we'll shout out maybe a few that we've heard about or done. And then finally, we're going to get into the actual planning for stuff, whether that's organizing events, finding out what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, stuff like that. That's just going to be the basic overview. And then with that being said, Mickayla, do you want to take it away with banquet goals?
Yes. So when we start planning for our banquet, a big thing to think about is what is the goal that we have for this banquet? What do we want to accomplish? Who do we want to include? What do we want to do? All those sorts of questions. So the main goal of any banquet is to recognize members and their accomplishments. You're spotlighting those who have received awards, degrees, have done well in contests, those who have served as your officers for the past year. This is your chance to recognize your chapter and what your members have done. However, there's also some other things that you can do if you want to kind of expand what your banquet is capable of. So for instance, some common goals that we've seen is community engagement. So if you want to get your community more involved in your chapter, you can make that a goal of your banquet. And one way you could meet that would be inviting different businesses and sponsors and those who have helped you throughout the year to your banquet, just to kind of give the community the opportunity to see what your chapter's doing. Another goal could be increased involvement. If you want to see more members get involved in your chapter, you could make that a goal of your banquet. And in order to meet that goal, you would invite more members from your chapter, maybe have a prize for those who came, make sure to recognize everyone who shows up. That's something that we've seen at a lot of chapters. For instance, any freshman that comes to your banquet gets their green hand degree, just because if they're recognized, they're more likely to come back. So making sure everybody's involved could help you meet that increased involvement goal. Another goal that we've commonly seen is sponsor recognition. FFA wouldn't be able to do what it does without all of our great sponsors, whether that's on the state level, district level, and especially the chapter level. Different companies, businesses, and people help us with all of our events throughout the year. So it's important that we recognize them. So we could make it a goal of our banquet to recognize all of the sponsors who have helped us out throughout this difficult year. That could include inviting anyone who donated money, who volunteered at events, just making sure you're giving them the recognition that they deserve for all the help that they've given you. And this kind of gives you the opportunity to make a bigger goal out of your banquet while you're still recognizing those members who have done so much. Another thing that we wanted to kind of mention was banquet themes. Now, this is something optional. Not every chapter does them, nor do you have to do one. But if you are going to do one, you're going to want to make sure that's one of the first things on your planning, just because it kind of impacts everything else you do. A theme can be used to help tie the banquet together, such as connecting different dots along the way, kind of like a roadmap. You'll want to pick it before you start planning. In the past, there was a lot of chapters that lined up their banquet themes with the theme of the state convention. So for instance, if you remember the I Can, We Will, or the Just One themes, those were used at banquets throughout the state during that time. However, since National FFA and the State Association has done away with themes, chapters are on their own to pick up ideas. So these could include old convention themes, maybe your county fair has a theme that they use, prom themes, or even current events can also be used as themes to kind of give your banquet some flair and tie all of your events together. You can go ahead and move on to the next slide, Cory.
All right. I'll take it away from here too with timeline. So this is just kind of like an order of events, things you should keep in mind as you're starting to plan out. We all know chapter banquets are still a couple months out, depending on when everyone has their own. But the things you should keep in mind are kind of what the day is going to look like. It's really up to you and what your chapter decides, whether that be a committee you guys form or the officer team or the advisor normally has an idea on how a situation looks from year to year. I definitely contact with your own advisor because she's done this, or she or he has done this multiple times already. And normally what has worked in the past will work in the future. We know COVID has mostly like threw that upside down, but for the most part, adaptations work well. And it's best to kind of work off what you've had rather than try to form a whole new idea this year because of it. So some things to keep in mind are location, meals, speakers, prizes, or videos. These are all up to the committee advisor or the officer team, who's ever in charge of planning your banquet. I know in the past we have ordered prizes to hand out, just like Mickayla said, and as well as a PowerPoint slide to go along as each member gets up to get whatever certificate they have. And what those kind of look like is for sub-districts or districts, it's a piece of paper like this. They'll be awarded this at banquet. This is actually my sister's. I believe she got last year for her green hand test. This is something that's small and still recognized at whatever level they participate in. And I'll get into a little bit more of that in the next slide. But the next thing you should talk about is kind of who you're going to invite and what each officer is going to say during this. So within 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say you definitely want to know a finalized Rsvp list. So who's going to be there and who's attending, and then what everyone's going to say. I definitely make sure that all grammar mistakes, anything that's out of whack or maybe handshaking, COVID procedures are in place with that. So it's best to revise those beforehand rather than getting to a week out and being, oh no, how are you going to do this? And we've definitely recognized that on the state level already. So with that being said, we're going to go into the awards, like I said before. So some of the chapter awards we hand out at Denison. The Green Hand Award, they do get a piece of paper. Again, I'm using my sisters as a reference here. There's big plans in handing out awards, mostly because it's member recognition. When the organization values them and helps them contribute to their success as a chapter and or organization, they're much more likely to be involved and continue growing with FFA. With the ever-changing way the FFA and the organization has, it's kind of building a sense of security on that this is something I want to involve my time in more to, as well as contributing further. And that could be whether at CDEs, LDEs, or attending other events your chapter or above district level has. With that being said, the sub-district ones will be given to your chapter, but things like the Green Hand Certificate, that's something our chapter does personally. So if you guys are thinking about that, I'm assuming there's templates online or you guys can find one or make your own. It's just best to keep in mind to have that rough idea on how you guys are going to go about doing this. Haley, do you want to talk about special guests?
Yeah, I'd love to. All right, so going into special guests next. Special guests at your chapter banquets is one of almost the biggest and most important part, because as a banquet, one of the main goals, as Mickayla hit on earlier, is to really just recognize those that helped make your FFA year possible, right? Everything you got to do, from going to state convention to national convention to even your chapter meetings. Maybe you got a grant or something like that throughout the year. Special guest is an opportunity to invite. So some examples we have here are sponsors or supporters. So anyone that's helped you or supported you throughout your year and made it possible for you to go to these places. Alumni members. So whether you have an alumni chapter or not, even if you don't, inviting people that maybe graduated a year or two before or any years before, just shoot them quick an invitation. It's super easy and it gives them a chance to kind of see what's going on in the chapter that they used to be a part of. And they love coming back and supporting. They love being a part of it again. So that's an important people to invite. School administration is also huge. This one, you would not be able to do as many things if it wasn't for your school administration allowing. And this year with COVID, we've really seen how much a school administration can impact how much a chapter can do and cannot do. So that one's huge too. Your superintendent, principal, teachers, anyone that's really helped out in any way in making it possible for you to do things. And state or district officers is also a great opportunity to get either us or other state officers or district officers from your district the chance to come and maybe speak. As you can see under, we have speakers too. I'll hit on that in a split second. but that gives opportunity for us to come and see what's happening in your guys' chapter and maybe inspire some younger members. So that's a great opportunity too. And I know we would love to come. State and district officers love going to people's banquets. And lastly, speakers. This one's a great one because we love motivational speakers and hearing words of wisdom from other people, outside sources. This is a good opportunity for other people that maybe aren't familiar with FFA to come in and not only watch what's happening in your banquet and who's getting recognized, and then also speaking and really getting the recognition too. So that one's a great opportunity. And do you guys have anything to add on to special guests? Mickayla or Cory, you guys have?
I guess if I could add on to school administration, I know every school's got a different relationship between their program, their advisor, their school administration. There's lots of different relationships that could form there. And inviting them to the banquet is good, whether you have a good relationship or maybe a not so great relationship. Because if they're a good, strong supporter of the program, you can invite them and thank them and recognize them for everything they do. But maybe your admin isn't as supportive of FFA as they are of sports. Inviting them to the banquet gives them an opportunity to see what your chapter is doing and how they can help contribute. Sometimes that's all it takes to kind of turn admin more towards your side. If they're given the chance to see what your program is doing and how much it's helping people, they're more likely to support you. So I would highly recommend inviting a school administrator if possible.
Yeah, for sure. That's huge. All right. If Cory, you want to slide down to thank yous. Awesome. All right. So as we have touched many times, a banquet is huge for showing recognition for those that were able to make it possible. So thank yous is also another way, whether you do it from, as you can see, handwritten thank you cards or plaques or whatever your chapter chooses to do. It's a great opportunity to have them come up on stage and really just say thank you in front of others, as well as just personal thank you cards too. So this is a great opportunity to show our appreciation for everything that they've done. And whether it is from silly things like maybe the janitor swept up the classroom after your chapter meeting to someone that chaperoned your national convention trip. So just thank yous along the lines, anywhere that fall in between there. This is a great opportunity to say thank you. And tips and tricks, Cory, if you want to slide down. Awesome. All right, so some tips and tricks. Just we have like a list of some things that came to our mind, and if you guys have anything to add, maybe from your personal experience, then you guys feel free to unmute yourself and add in too. So we have delegate tasks to all officers or committee members. So it's going to be super important that we're splitting up and delegating things so things are getting done. This is a great opportunity for your chapter officers and for committees. I don't know if your guys' school has a committee for just banquet planning. I know mine did. It's a great opportunity to split up some tasks so then everything can get done in an efficient manner. We all know that teamwork makes the dream work. So if we're all helping out a little bit, that helps a lot. Don't wait until the last minute. So this is huge, guys. Do not wait until the last minute, because then it will not be as good as it could be. The potential is not going to be there if you wait until the last minute. So I'd make sure that we're reaching out ahead of time and contacting people and getting ahead of the game. And then it'll be a lot less stressful right before the banquet, and it will turn out a lot better. Do you guys have anything to add on to those two before I get into the next ones? Those two kind of go together a little bit. Cory, I can see you got something to say.
I do have like a small personal story. We couldn't get the audio working for our banquet because it was held in our auditorium. So just practicing like even a run through with AV equipment or anything you're going to be using, make sure it's there, projectors. Technology always seems to fail at the worst possible moment for all of us. So it's best that we know how to run things as well as know how to set up things. So even just doing something like that would be very beneficial for all of us.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of ties into our next one, is doing a practice run. So I know for us, we did a practice run the night before. Our banquet was always on a Saturday. We did it Friday night. So just something before to make sure, like what Cory said, your technology is working. I mean, technology is great until it doesn't work. We all know that. So just making sure that our technology is working and doing a run through so everyone knows what their parts are upstage. If you guys seat your guests and who's going to be seating certain places, who's going where, who's going to be serving food, anything along the lines that might come up the next day or the day of your banquet, anything. So doing a practice run through will just help make everything go a lot smoother the next day. And it will look a lot sharper too. If you guys know exactly what you're doing on banquet day, people will be impressed. I mean, as we said earlier, you have special guests coming and speakers and stuff like that. So you'll want to look good too for them to show how good you guys are. So practice run through will really help with that. Communication, huge. As we touched on teamwork too, two of the biggest things when you guys are planning your banquet. So always be communicating with each other as well as your advisor. That's huge too. Just making sure that everyone's on the same page. Oh, I think we have someone trying to get in if someone wants to admit him. So so that's huge too, and just making sure that everything's getting done and communicating so you're all on the same page. So then you don't have two people doing the same thing, or maybe you show up the day of and someone goes, oh my gosh, I forgot to do the year in review slideshow. So just making sure that everything is done. Cross your T's, dot your I's week before, just making sure that you're communicating with each other. Next, we have include community and school district. So FFA, one of our biggest things that we're most proud of is our community involvement. So always giving back to our community, and this is a great opportunity to include your community so then they can see what's going on in your chapter. And I promise they're way more willing to support you guys, whether that's through grants or just showing up to things if they know what's going on in the chapter. So this is a great opportunity to invite school administration, to invite community members, anyone that has helped make things possible and you would appreciate their support. This is an opportunity to do that. And as Mickayla said earlier, maybe you have a tough school district that your administration, maybe they're just kind of on the edge in what you guys can do, or maybe they're a little bit more supportive of a different extracurricular activity. So this is a great opportunity to show them how successful you guys are, what you guys are doing, and how beneficial the chapter is to the school and community. Next, we have reach out to FFA friends for ideas. So you guys are already one step ahead on this. You guys have reached out to us, right? So you signed up for this. That's exactly what planning a chapter banquet entails, actually. It just comes down to who's willing to reach out and get ideas, who's going to bring back new ideas to make the next chapter banquet better. So this one's just huge. And there's a lot of different ideas going on out there, as we touched on with some themes and some other stuff. There's a lot of different ways that schools do chapter banquets. And so a great way to just bring back new ideas to your chapter so you can even be better is to reach out to surrounding chapters around you or any friends, whether you met them at state or national convention or anyone. So yeah, that's kind of what I got for tips and tricks. Cory, Mickayla, do you guys got anything? Do you, Emma, Mickayla, and who just joined us? Damon, if you guys have anything to add too, if you guys have any past experiences, maybe it was a good one, maybe your chapter banquet, something bad happened, anything to add so you guys can kind of give off of each other too.
Guess the only thing I would add when it comes to reaching out to FFA friends, every chapter has a banquet or some sort of banquet. So you could reach out to anyone that you've met through FFA and just kind of gain their experiences from banquets and what their chapter does, just to help bring in some new ideas. It's always a great idea to reach out to others and talk to your friends about what they're doing.
Hi, my name is Damon. Sorry I'm late. I'm from California, so I forgot that 6:30 your time is not 6:30 my time. But one thing that my chapter does that I think works really well is we have a gimmick. So we come up with the craziest, most wackiest, like game type thing. Like I think 2 years ago, all of our chapter officers stood on a cow scale and like found out the weight, and whoever got the closest to the weight won like a really pretty gift basket. So I think like if you could come up with like a sort of gimmick just to kind of maybe entice people, it might make your banquet seem more than just like awards and celebrations, which is definitely fun. However, I do know, sometimes people might want to come for more than that. So that's my thing.
That's awesome. So have you ever won it? Damon, have you ever won the little gift bag thingy?
I haven't, but I think that'd be cool.
So are you a freshman? Would you like to do a quick introduction so we can kind of all get to know you? We know you're from California now, but just maybe, Cory, if you want to pull up that first slide with what we did. We did our name and chapter, school, and favorite FFA memory.
Yes. So I'll try to remember as much of that as I can. Hi, my name is Jamin Gallegos. As you all know, I'm from California. I am from Fallbrook High School, the Fallbrook FFA. It is in Southern California. We are about an hour away from San Diego and about 2 hours away from LA, some points of contact. I I serve as our chapter treasurer, so I'm a junior this year. And I think my favorite FFA memory would be, last year we were actually planning for a banquet, and we were preparing some pulled pork. And while I was doing that, the chapter officers were they were kind of running through everything. And that our banquet was the day before the entire COVID shutdown. So one of our advisors walked in the room and they were just like, hey, this isn't happening. I'm really sorry. And it was so sad, but it was also so nice because I went with our reporter and our parliamentarian, and we went to Taco Bell and had a great time. And then all of the officers and then myself, because I was an award presenter, we all just kind of talked, and it was super nice. I enjoy connecting with people, but it was super great.
That's awesome. All right, well, thank you for introducing yourself. I think we're going to move on to COVID adjustments. So if Mickayla, you want to hit on this crazy pandemic that we're living in and how we're going to have our chapter banquets.
Yes, I can definitely touch on that. So you will have to talk to your school on what you're able to do. As we've kind of noticed, schools vary from district to district, and especially since we're between California and Iowa right now, there's a lot of changes and differences between the two states and the different school systems that we're covering. So some things that COVID could impact. First off, your meal. I know at Knoxville, we usually do kind of like a buffet style where you go through and fill your plate and there's potatoes and pulled pork and all of this kind of stuff. Unfortunately, that probably won't be able to happen this year. So some things that we've seen done is putting meals in individual packages. So for instance, Haley and I went to Lamar's a couple months ago, and it was takeout boxes that was full of food that everybody got their own individually packaged meal. That way we could still eat together, but nobody was sharing utensils or getting food from the same dish. Secondly, it could impact your number of attendees. Maybe your school restricts how many people can come to events, which could impact who you're able to invite, and maybe how many parents each member is able to bring. It could also impact how you present awards. Something that we've been struggling with as a state association is learning how to present awards without shaking hands. Usually you come up on stage, you'd shake their hand and give them their plaque or their certificate. Unfortunately, that may not be able to happen at your school. So learning kind of how to adjust in order to still be able to present those awards. And another thing it could impact is how you set up your banquet or the layout of it. You may have to space tables out more. Maybe people can only sit with their families. Just kind of adjusting your setup to whatever your school is allowing. And then something else you could do if your attendees.
Mickayla?
Yes.
Could
My
you
audio
maybe
cutting out?
Yeah, maybe just go back to the beginning of the whole phrase.
Yes.
Oh no, now we lost her.
Is my audio better now?
Yep.
Okay. I will start back up at what COVID could impact. Okay, so first off, we've got the meal. A buffet style most likely won't work this year, so we're going to have to look at other options such as doing individually packaged meals. Secondly, it could impact the number of attendees you're allowed to have based on where you're having your banquet or how much control the school district has over your numbers. The third thing would be your presentation of awards, such as learning how to do awards without shaking hands, since many schools may not be able to do that this year. And then your fourth thing would be the setup of your banquet, how close you can have tables together, where you can have everything at, just kind of adjusting that setup and layout to what COVID is restricting you. And something that you could do, since COVID is restricting stuff, is maybe doing a live stream or virtual option for those who can't join you in person. Many schools have added different things so they can stream basketball games or wrestling matches. So maybe using that technology to broadcast your banquet would be a way to include those who can't attend in person. Cory or Haley, do you have anything to add or anything that my audio cut out for?
I think you hit a lot of it. I know what some chapters have done in the past is they may not have like a meal on standby for banquet, but rather it's a voucher for something that could be like a local business, or they could get a certificate for a meal somewhere else that's just not directly correlated with the banquet, but they do get something for attending. I've seen this a lot, and this kind of rounds about the whole cleansing stuff and having the chance on you. It could also be a sponsorship where you could ask a local business to do so. It's just a way so not to increase cost by too much, but you're still having the eligibility for a meal.
Yeah, I guess I don't really have any like specifics to add, but just an overview, I guess. Like, we all know that we're living in a crazy world right now, and we've never experienced a pandemic. But definitely don't let all of these maybe changes or alters, or maybe we're going to be doing things a little bit different this year. Definitely don't let that change your mindset and your whole entire perspective of banquet. Let's just like be lucky that we get to have them still. And even though you may have to do a meal that maybe wasn't as good as a cooked fresh meal that a typical year you would have, or maybe you're going to have a camera in the back and maybe you don't get to have any family members come, they're all watching from home on their couches. Like, just being able to gather as an FFA member and family, I guess, together and be able to go through it in person that way. Like, just always be positive about that, I guess. So don't let all of these adjustments weigh your opinions or your perspectives and have a negative impact on the banquet, I would say, overview. I think that leads us into questions. We can, if you guys have any questions for us, we can do this. And Damon, if you would like, since you hopped on a little bit later, we can quickly run through some of the other stuff too, if you'd like. If Morgan or Emma have any questions for us. Man, tough crowd.
Sorry, I'm just getting home from work. I do not have any questions. That touched on a lot of information, and I'm glad to bring all this back to my chapter.
Awesome. All right, well, I guess Emma, Morgan, if you guys don't have any questions, feel free to hop off if you'd like.